everything when it comes to rights, think about it through the lens of you are licensing your personal brand, your face, your voice, what you stand for. Um, and so ask yourself, are you okay with your face being blasted to millions of people that aren't necessarily part of your community? Are you ready for some of the comments that are going to come in with people that might disagree with what you're promoting? Like all of these things go into how you consider pricing that part of your personal brand out.
Welcome to Accidentally Influential, the show for educators, experts, and creators who never meant to build a platform but want to monetize it beyond their own community. I'm Kate.
And I'm T. Combined, we've built an audience of nearly 500,000 followers and landed over $500,000 in brand deals. Now, we help you turn knowledge into cash, content into partnerships, and influence into a business that pays.
You might have become accidentally influential,
but what you do with it now, that part's intentional. Let's make some money. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Accidentally Influential. Today is going to be really, really good. I know you guys have been waiting for this episode. You don't even know what this episode's about, but you've been waiting for it. Today, we're going to spill the tea on what, Kate?
We're talking rates. We're talking money today, baby.
Let's go. All right. So we've got a lot of good stuff for you today. We're just going to dive right in. Not only are we going to break down pricing for you, what to charge for all of the things, but we also have a pretty cool, not an influencer, custom framework for you guys to think through how you price your brand partnerships. And I can't wait to share it with you guys. So we're going to dive right in. As we know, the creator economy, creator economy alike, it's just like pure chaos. Like there's so much going on when it comes to money. And nobody talks about it. Even like I feel this it's like aura around me right now, even about talking about it here, like just because it doesn't happen, right? Like, are you feeling anything?
No, I'm kind of feeling the same way. And I think that that's how it is. I think other, like sectors of the economy have kind of caught up with like pay transparency. But I think in general, the generations before us did not talk about these things, but it also led to a lot of people being taken advantage of. And so we don't want that to happen. That's why we're talking more transparently about it and making sure that you understand what your work is actually worth.
Yeah. Totally. Because it's just like wild to me how often I have talked to creators that say, like we've talked about it before, $300 for a video. And then you hear another creator say for like something really similar, like $3K for that same deliverable. And it's like, what's going on?
I think that part of that comes from not understanding the amount of money that's actually out there to be made in brand partnerships. And I think that as educators, there's this kind of naive attitude where you don't see yourself as a traditional influencer, and therefore you aren't willing to charge the rates that traditional influencers are charging for content that might not even be performing as well as the content that you are.
Yeah.
Which is a huge problem.
Totally. Yeah. And like we mentioned in, I think it was like episode 2, this really cool stat that in the education-based content creator space, 9% engagement rate is like on average, like our type of content is creating that level of engagement. And that comes with a price tag. So even from just like an awareness of how much value you bring as an educator to brands will help you when it comes to actually pricing out your content.
1,000%.
Yeah. So let's just talk about why pricing feels so hard. And we kind of touched on this a little bit. But there's no rule book. And I want to preface like everything we're going to talk about in this episode, like remembering that it's a challenging thing that there's no rule book, but also as we're talking about rates and talking about money, the last thing we want you to do is be like, well, Kate and T told me to charge this, so I'm going to charge that, like that's not the vibe we're going. We're not creating a rule book. What we're doing is teaching you kind of levers to pull to make sure that you are pricing the value you bring to brands the best that you can possibly price.
Right. And I think it's really important to remember, like, everybody's experience, everybody's stats, everybody's engagement rates are unique, and that's going to produce unique results. There's also different styles that we bring as content creators, and some of those styles, whether it's editing style, whether it's talking head voiceover style, that is going to potentially bring in a different rate based on where the brand sees value in the style of content. So there is no one size fits all
Mhm.
solution here, but like T said, there are different things that you should know, different levers that you can pull in order to get a rate that is appropriate for your content.
Totally. So I'm curious, Kate, like when you were first starting, in terms of just your mindset as an education-based content creator, like what did you run into when you were first trying to price your content, and whether it's pitching or, responding to pitches, what was going on in your head?
I feel like every beginner content creator can relate to this, but I think when I got my first inbound and they asked me, like, what are your rates for a 30-second TikTok? And I'm like, I don't freaking know. Like, what's your budget? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
exactly.
you have this moment where you're like, I genuinely I don't know
Mhm.
because I've never been asked that question before. And you probably don't have like peers who are doing the exact same work as you. So it's really
Yeah.
hard to figure out like so you're Googling and then
Yeah.
you find that when you Google, none of the answers are the same. And so I think for me it was just a complete lack of information that allowed me to even form a rate to pitch, and that led to me being underpaid significantly in my first partnerships.
Totally, and, like, to that Google point, it's like, even now when you Google,
Yeah,
there's nothing in this industry, like, it's
no.
all targeted towards people that, like, are getting PR packages with, lip gloss or, just, like,
Yeah,
purses, just the influencer brand partnership space,
right.
and so it's hard, like, I hope that we, like, aren't downgrading at all
Yeah.
during this episode how challenging it is to price yourself, um, and I think for me, like, I had such a scarcity mindset, like, I had absolutely no idea how to price myself, like, same with Kate, and my inclination was like, "Well, I don't wanna lose this opportunity." Um, so I'm gonna guess, like, the minimum that they would take, just make sure I hit that, like, no
Right.
data to support it. Just don't
Yeah.
wanna lose the opportunity.
And I think it's so crazy when we think about like when you're first starting a side hustle or a content creation journey, whether you're doing it as like to make a little extra income on the side or you're doing it because you want to turn it into a full-time career. I don't think you have a concept of what a brand has for a marketing budget
Mm-mm. Yeah,
because you're thinking in your head like, "Oh my gosh, I can make $500 to post one 30-second video." To that brand, that $500 is a drop in the bucket.
totally. Yeah, and, like, I feel like we have the tendency to price, like to look at content creation in terms of the work that it takes to
Yes.
create that piece of content, like, yeah, it could take me an hour, less
Mhm.
than that, 30 minutes to create a video that I could charge $500 for, and so, like, if you're looking at, like, from an hourly standpoint, $500, yeah, that's, like,
Right.
pretty good hourly rate, you know? Um, but that's not really the perspective we should be looking at our work. We should be looking at our work through the lens of the value it brings to a brand, which is usually way more than $500.
Right. Also, the amount of work that you've put in to get to the point where you can be accepting a brand deal that is worth what you're charging for it. Like,
Yeah.
I think about that sometimes when I think about the rates that I now charge for brand deals still kind of blow my mind.
Mhm.
However, I think about how much time I put into growing and nurturing my community before I ever accepted a paid partnership. And so while
Yeah.
the individual videos that I'm filming now might not take me like an entire day to film, I spent
Mhm.
a lot of time creating this platform where I could charge
Totally.
these rates. So that's
Yeah.
something else to keep in mind.
Yeah, like, the work you put into your personal brand, like, how do you even it's hard to put a price tag on that because there is so much work, so much thought leadership, so much building connection with people across the industry.
Right.
That's a that
T
yeah.
Is there ever like an early brand deal you can remember? And obviously, we won't name names here, but just where maybe you underpriced and how you realized that you underpriced?
Yes. Yes, almost exclusively early on,
Oh, love.
you know? Um, yeah, I think that, like, it wasn't until this one early partnership I had well over 100,000 followers and was
Wow.
taking $200 a video, like, just come on, T.
Wow. Girly pop.
Come on, T. Um, and really it wasn't until I talked to another creator that was creating for this brand and realized that they were earning literally, like, 15 times more than I
Mhm.
am per video. Like, that's not even exaggeration.
Yeah.
With less followers,
Yep.
which I know we've made the point that followers aren't everything, but, like, I do have a very engaged, trusting community.
Yep.
Um, and the worst part about that is knowing that I've anchored at that price that I started at, and it's very, very challenging to move needles when you've underpriced yourself.
Exactly. And like, I think you have to remember that anytime you go into a negotiation is like wherever you start with a brand, you better be comfortable negotiating from there and
Mhm.
knowing like that is essentially the foundation that you are
Yeah.
laying the entire future partnership on. Once you've landed on that rate, it's really hard to get a brand to agree to give you more money to do potentially the same amount of work. So, really have to take that seriously when you're first partnering with brand. And there are ways to negotiate, as you continue to partner with them to bring up conversations where you want to increase rate. And I'm sure we'll dive into that in future episodes. But I think that's a super great point to make.
Yeah. I don't Kate, you might have said this to me. Somebody said this to me. I don't even know. Probably you, because you're a queen. But like your price, like how you show up and how you price yourself really teaches brands how to treat you.
Yeah.
It communicates something about you as a creator, you as a professional. And so underpricing yourself, even to make sure that you hold on to a partnership, is not doing you any favors. It's not doing the industry any favors.
Yep. But yeah, T, I think you're right. I think that goes for literally pricing in any part of your business, whether it's how you price the items in your Etsy shop or whether it's how you price a brand partnership.
Yep. Totally spot on. Um, so let's start talking about some of the levers, or not the levers quite yet, but like the moving parts that help inform you how you price.
Yep.
So we want to start framing up kind of like our framework,
Yep.
laying the foundation of some of these levers. And so when it comes to pricing your content in a brand partnership, there are essentially five pricing levers. So the first is the platform, like where you're posting your content and where you've built an audience matters when it comes to pricing. I wouldn't I don't know about you, Kate, but I like wouldn't put too much ionus on this, but there is a difference between TikTok, Instagram, podcast, YouTube.
Yeah.
They all have like different CPMs, different video formatting. Like YouTube is just like a crazy amount of work and has
Right.
a lot of, access to click through specific links where, you know,
Right.
TikTok builds that true quick connection. It's just very, very different in terms of content itself.
Yeah, and not to muddy the water too much here, but that is also kind of like a sub lever you can pull is if you have a multi-platform approach, sometimes
Mhm.
you can get paid more for the same deliverable just posted on multiple platforms. So it's not like you're charging just based on one platform. If you have multiple platforms, you should be using those as well.
Yeah, and it's funny because like, I feel like the majority of the time, brands kind of, "Let's post this, like, cross-post it on Instagram and cross-post it on YouTube
Yep.
Reels or YouTube Shorts," and kinda slide it in there as it's just, like as
Like,
it's
oh,
nothing.
that's just the base rate is
Yeah,
to
it's just,
cross
like,
post when
part of it.
that's not the case. And we're
Mm-mm.
definitely going to be breaking that down because cross posting is an upsell.
Yeah, and it should be. You're getting access to completely different audiences, like
Absolutely.
yeah. Um, so the second of the 5 pricing levers would be audience size and your engagement. So views, saves, comments, retention. Obviously, like we talked a lot about this in episode 2, a higher engagement equals, is more important than having a ton of followers.
Yep, absolutely. If you have a million followers, but none of them care what you have to say, you don't have a very valuable audience.
Yeah. Third is niche relevance. And
Mhm.
so this one is just like a huge one because if a brand comes to you and doesn't have a ton of overlap between their ideal audience and your ideal audience, pricing might not be as substantial as it would be if, their ideal customer is literally all over your community. You
Yep,
can charge more.
absolutely. And that makes a ton of sense. And I think it's a huge value for educators to charge more for their content because typically there is that direct crossover with the brands.
Yeah, totally. Fourth would be deliverables. Obviously, like, you know, how many videos you're including, the length of videos. Are you doing a trend reel versus more of like a talking head?
Yep.
What your package looks like, that will all go into your pricing. And then fifth, is usage rights and exclusivity. So like how much does the brand own your content or own this part of your personal brand?
Yep. And once again, these, I think, especially the deliverable format and then usage rights and exclusivity are places where a lot of content creators aren't charging what they should be.
Totally.
They just think that's like a free add on when the truth is like that's actually some of the biggest money making parts of a brand deal.
Yeah. Kate, I know you got some stories in that department.
I do. I do.
Yeah, we'll
I
save
do.
that for a future episode.
Eh,
But I mean, I think that's like the difference between like when I first started with brand partnerships, like the brand was really driving the conversation. I was like almost following
right.
their lead. Whatever they threw out there, I was like, yeah, cool, like let's go versus being an expert and positioning myself as understanding how my content drives ROI, like understanding the impact of usage rights and like how much more of an ROI brands get by running ads against my videos. Like
Yep.
that's that switch in how you present yourself.
And I think being able to say to a brand, like based on former videos that I've done, I have found my audience converts best when we do XYZ. Um,
Mhm.
and then presenting them with a package of deliverables rather than them just coming to you and being like, how about a one off 30-second video, organic posting only on TikTok? You might be like, actually, like, I know my community typically resonates more with a 3 package videos
Mhm.
cross-posted to both Instagram and TikTok with 90 days total ad rights between all of those. Not only
Totally.
is that setting you up for a larger package, but it's also positioning you as a strategic partner to the brand, showing the brand you know what you're talking about, and giving them ultimately a better ROI.
Yeah. It's like I don't know if you've ever had brands talk to you like say this to you, but brands are kind of exhausted
Mhm.
with influencers
Yep.
and like, I say influencers because that's the language that they use, but a lot of people, like, a lot of creators show up with these astronomical numbers and astronomical requests without any sort of positioning behind it, and I do, like, genuinely think it's created some tension between the creator space and brands because of it. There's, like, a misfire there. I don't know, have you experienced that?
I have never, like, personally experienced
Yeah.
it, but I don't know if you've ever seen I've seen videos on TikTok of, like,
Mm,
influencer managers being like, "These
yeah,
are the rates that I had influencers pitch me at this week," and some of them are just like, there is no reasoning behind the
yeah,
rate. Like, it's just a random number that they think they should be charging.
yeah,
And then you have people who are like dramatically undercharging. And then these brands start thinking, like, well, this person was going to give me way better ROI, and their rate is a third of what this person's is. And then all of a sudden, we all end up, it's a lose lose situation for
it really is.
everybody at that point.
Yeah.
So, as we talk about actually putting reasoning behind your rates, let's just dive into the nitty gritty. Like, what is the calculation that we typically use in order to calculate base rate?
So, I have to drop this again. These are guardrails. These aren't like there's literally and I don't think there ever will be a golden standard on how to calculate your rates. But our goal is to give you as clear of a starting line as you possibly can to make the best decision for your personal brand and the brand itself. So, where we typically start as creators is 1 to 5. You charge 1 to 5% of your total following. Now, this is based off of several nuances, which we're going to dive into. One of the big ones being engagement rate. All right. We're not just looking like, okay, I have 100,000 followers. I'm going to charge $5,000 because T and Kate said 1 to 5%. And that upper range is looking pretty freaking good. Like
Yep.
once again, we're like approaching this through an informed, data driven perspective. So 1 to 5% of your total following for that platform plus 20% usage rights per month, which is really important.
And if you're sitting there listening to this and you're like, holy shit, I'm underpaid, don't
Yes,
panic. Like, I think we've all been at that place where, like, we realize we are not being paid what we're actually worth. And we're here to kind of help you figure out how to maybe get yourself out of the situation that you have found yourself in or start charging what you're actually worth on future partnerships. Like he said, this is so nuanced. And I think that there are definitely times where I have accepted rates that are less than this, or I have been
Mhm.
willing to negotiate on the percentage that I charge for usage rights based on the scope of the partnership, based on whether
Yeah,
this is kind of the first video I've done with a brand and I'm trialing this out. Um, so I would say in general, just keep that in mind. 1 to 5% of your following is your base rate. You have to add usage rights, exclusivity, things like that on top of that.
totally. Um, So with that being said, like let's just hop into our pricing framework that we've put
Yep.
together to help you understand what levers to pull and where. So our framework doesn't have a fancy name right now. Hopefully one day it will. It's the not an influencer for our pricing framework. And so there are four levers that you can focus like after you have this base rate based off of the 1 to 5% of following, we look at these four levers to see how that could increase, how that could decrease, usually increase, and that is your reach, relevance, rights, and ROI. All right. So we're just going to break down each of these, um, starting with reach. You want to dive into that one?
Yeah. So reach is essentially what a brand sees. This is things like your followers, which once again, we know followers doesn't matter if you don't also have the engagement rate stats. It's your views, it's your watch time, it's retention rates. All of this, guys, is really going to be found in your media kit, or at least it should be. If you don't have a media kit yet, I will scream this tool from the rooftops because it saves me a ton of time. It's not sponsored. Beacons AI has a media kit for creators
Mm-hmm.
that is super helpful. It'll provide all of this information up front to brands. But really, you should be prioritizing those rates like your engagement. If you have a 16% engagement rate, you should not be charging 1% of your followers for a
Mm-mm.
video. Similarly, if you have a 1% engagement rate, you can't charge 5% of your followers. So there is some, kind of, I hate to say nuance again, but nuance.
Yeah. And it takes like some true honesty with yourself. It's obviously very appealing to chase these big numbers. But the reality is like just having a follower count doesn't earn those numbers. There's a little bit more that goes into that. Like you could have two creators making the same exact video, all for like 50,000 followers. Like on paper, it looks exactly the same. One creator could average around 3% engagement rate and the other 8% engagement rate. That latter creator could charge 2 to 3 times more for that same exact video than, the other creator of 50,000 followers and 3% engagement rate. Um, and so this is the type of data that you bring to the table to make a case for the ROI that you provide for a brand.
Right. And that's why knowing your metrics is so important. Like when you
Mhm.
don't have data, you really don't have a grounds to negotiate on.
Yeah. Yep, it's so true. And what was it? Episode 2 that we dove into that.
Yeah.
We'll link it below. Go listen to it. It's a good one. You'll come out feeling a little bit more confident on how to navigate the world of data. So the second lever is relevance. We touched on this a little bit already, but this is what the brand feels from you. So the overlap between your community and their community is their ideal customer in your audience and how many of them are in your audience. Um, and that's really what the brand's paying for. They're not paying for a video just to go out to anybody on the internet. They're paying for exposure to your audience that is full of people that would likely buy from them.
Right. 100%. And I think also there's complexities here. Like you have to consider, is the brand a newer brand trying to tap
Mhm.
into a market where you already have that market right in front of you? Are they, an older, more experienced brand who is probably already reaching these people, but wants to bring you on board as a partner? Those things are going to complicate the process of setting your rates. But like we said,
Yeah,
it's not one size fits all.
exactly. And the more you understand the nuances, the more you can take them into consideration when you're pricing yourself. And I
Yeah.
would say another nuance to relevance is like, would your audience thank you for sharing this with them? Like, would they be appreciative? Because I don't know about you, I've certainly had brands that on paper, our ideal audience overlaps and
Mhm.
like the brand would obviously be like, yeah, I want access to those people. But if I think about the businesses of my community, like, there's something mismatched there. Like, I don't
Yeah,
think they would come up and be like, "T, thank you so much for sharing this. It changed my life," So
right.
I think that's an important thing to take into consideration, not necessarily for pricing, but for your personal brand.
100%. I think a lot of that comes down to alignment and being able to discern whether a product is even a good fit to be considering taking on a partnership with.
Yeah. Partnerships are so much more than just the money you're bringing in. It's like, are you adding to your personal brand? Are you legitimately helping your community?
Yeah,
Important questions to ask when you're figuring out what brands to partner with.
right.
Um, so the third is rights, usage rights. Kate's the queen of usage rights, so I'm letting her take this one.
I love I okay, one thing about me, guys, like, I love negotiating. I've always loved negotiating, and I think that when it comes to being a content creator, this is probably where you have the most freedom to negotiate, and so I think that's
Mhm.
why I love this so much. T and I are both reading a book right now. We're kind of in, like, a little
Little
book
book
club
club.
of 2.
We'll
But
link
it's
it
called
below.
yeah, we'll link the book below. It's called Negotiating Like Your or Never Split the Difference, Negotiating Like Your Life Depends on It, and I think it gives a lot of really useful strategies if you are not someone who likes to negotiate. So like we said, we'll link that below for you. But when it
Mhm,
comes to rights, what this really comes down to is how much of your content does this brand own? So when we talk about crafting a base rate, you are not giving them any additional reach beyond your organic community that you've developed. So your organic post only rate is your base rate. You're not going to add anything onto that. Now, let's say a brand wants to put ad money behind a video. So they want to get an ad code that they are going to put money behind to try to reach new audience using your brand, your face, your content. Typically, you're going to charge between 20 to 30% of your base rate per month for ad
mhm.
rates. And I want to repeat that again.
Per
20 to
month.
30% of your base rate per month. So if a brand wants to run your ads for 90 days, think about how much they're having to pay for that. Like it's not just, oh, you want to run it for 30 days? Yeah, I'll charge 20%. You want to run it for 90 days? I'll charge no. It's
Mhm.
it's per month. It's per month. And
Yeah.
brands know this. They do. Um and the other thing is exclusivity. And this is something that I will say as a creator, I tend to push back a little bit here. I
Mhm,
really, if there's going to be exclusivity, I want it to be very, very clearly defined what that exclusivity looks like. How long is it for? What are the exact brands that I'm not allowed to talk about? Because as a creator, especially in the print on demand space, I use a lot of complementary tools and I don't
mhm.
like the idea that I can only promote one of them
Yeah.
because there are cases where like you can use multiple design platforms or multiple AI image generators. So be careful here. Really, really consider if it's something you feel comfortable taking on exclusivity for and charge accordingly.
Yeah, and I think, I'm actually I'm actually navigating this right now with a brand. Um, Exclusivity, like, the impacts of that on your personal brand and on your audience extends way past, say, 3 to 6 months of exclusivity,
Yeah.
because when you're exclusive to a brand, they become a very large part of your personal brand, and even when an exclusivity, relationship ends, that perception of that brand being part of your personal brand does not end
Right.
to the people listening.
And think about how it looks to your community if you've pitched this one brand for 6 months, then all of a sudden the exclusivity period ends and you start talking about other tools. All of
It's
a sudden those
confusing.
6 months of partnership don't really feel that genuine and it leads
Yeah.
to a distrust in future partnerships as well. Exclusivity can look different. Like I have worked with brands where an exclusivity period might be 24 hours
Mhm.
before and after posting a video. I would say that is fairly standard. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
When we start getting into exclusivity, like I want to say the longest exclusivity period I've ever signed was 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after organic
Mm,
posting. So it didn't, because there were ad rates behind these videos. And so it didn't extend like as long as the ads were running, but essentially within 1 month of organic posting, I could not talk about other brands in that category. And so
mm.
you have to think like, is it worth, really tying yourself to that brand? Are you going to miss out on other opportunities potentially? So for this partnership, for me, I was fine with it because I wasn't going to be promoting any competitors. I didn't use any competitors, their tool. But if you know your audience best, you know your workflow best, you know what tools you want to promote. So really, really think about this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like everything when it comes to rights, think about it through the lens of you are licensing your personal brand, your face, your voice, what you stand for. Um, and so ask yourself, are you okay with your face being blasted to millions of people that aren't necessarily part of your community? Are you ready for some of the comments that are going to come in with people that might disagree with what you're promoting? Like all of these things go into how you consider pricing that part of your personal brand out.
I think that's a huge thing, especially with ad rights, because a lot of times when we just post organically about the tools we know and love, it's going out directly to the community that already follows you and
Mhm.
trusts you and likes the tools that you're recommending. Whenever a brand is putting ad spend behind a video, you don't have a lot of control where that video is
Mhm.
going. In fact, you don't have any control because the brand is the one who's ultimately choosing what demos to send that out to, where to run it, all the things. You're
Mhm.
gonna get more hate comments if a brand is running
Totally.
ads.
Yeah,
1000%, and some of them are gonna be bots, some of them are gonna be real, but there's an emotional weight that you carry whenever your content is exported to people who aren't your community. So keep that in mind.
absolutely. Yeah, and I think we both have some stories wrapped around that one.
We could do an entire podcast episode on
Yeah.
hate comments and navigating them, and honestly, I think we should because it's
Yeah,
probably one of the hardest things to navigate as a content creator.
totally.
We talk a lot on this show about taking yourself seriously as a creator, and that means setting yourself up like a real business.
That's why we're really excited to be partnering with Taylor Brands. They're an all-in-one platform that helps creators and entrepreneurs like you and me form their LLCs and get their business organized.
When T and I decided to make Not an Influencer Creator Agency official, we actually used Taylor Brands to form our LLC, and the process was honestly so simple.
We were able to file from our laptops at home in less than an hour. They walked us through the entire process step by step, and we were able to track the status of our filing right from within our Taylor Brands dashboard.
Taylor also offers additional services like helping you get your EIN or set up your business bank accounts, so once your LLC is filed, you've got what you need to keep moving forward.
Plus, tools like their finance manager can help you track your income and expenses as you grow, which, let's be real, is the part most creators avoid.
If you're a content creator ready to treat your platform like a business, search Taylor Business Builder to get started today. So, with those three out of the way, T, we should probably dive into ROI because this is arguably what the brands care about the most, and therefore what you as a creator should also be presenting with a lot of emphasis to the brands you're working with.
Exactly. So the fourth lever is ROI. So this is what they gain by working with you. This is why they would want to work with you. And honestly, before I even dive into the lever, I feel like this was a huge lesson for me when I was negotiating with brands early on. This shift from making it about me and how many followers I have and how cool my audience is to the brand and what the brand is going to get and the strategy involved working with the brand, that shift and who the focus is on. I don't know. Did you go through that?
Yeah, 1000%. I think we all do.
Yeah. Yeah. But so ROI isn't just it doesn't just need to be about conversions. So obviously the brand wants people to sign up for their product, buy their product, whatever it is, but that's not the only ROI that you as a creator can provide for a brand. I think this is something Kate and I really learned over the last year is that there's actually a huge ROI for brands, just like building that personal brand and having their brand be a part of yours. Whether or not that drives specific link clicks and conversions on your specific link, there's so much ROI just to brand awareness, being a part of an educator's brand.
Right. And I think that this also ties into having a network of creators who are all promoting similar products.
Mhm.
That is also where influencer marketing works because it's not just you hire one influencer to talk about one product. I could post a video and talk about a product. And then T could also be on that same campaign talking about the same product. And then a third or fourth or fifth creator might be doing the same thing. And that customer might not convert until they get to creator
Yeah.
number seven's video. But we all work together to be able to pull ROI for the brand.
And I think this is why, like, Kate and I literally preach anti-affiliate
Yeah.
marketing, like, or anti-affiliate brand partnerships because, like, we know from a psychological standpoint, it takes multiple touch points for somebody to, like, build trust with a brand, let alone act on a piece of content or act on learning about a certain brand. And so you coming in with 1 to 3 videos for a brand might be laying the groundwork for the next campaign that's coming after you, but that doesn't mean that you didn't produce ROI for the brand. You literally, like, laid the foundation for that customer to come on board 1 or 2 creators down the road.
Right. Affiliate partnerships should always be seen as icing on top of the cake and not as the entire payment that you're receiving because it's not guaranteed income. Affiliate income is not guaranteed. You don't know that that money's coming in. You're still doing the same level of work though.
Yeah, exactly. So when it comes to, like, laying that foundation and preparing to communicate to a brand the ROI that you can bring to them, this all kind of rolls up into some sort of portfolio that you have. Like, I have a portfolio that has screenshots of my data, comments. I've worked with a brand that was very willing to share affiliate conversions, examples of videos that have astronomical reach. Like, all of these things can be used to communicate the ROI to a brand as you guys are pitching, whatever your pricing is. So to have that data and those examples is really powerful.
1000%. So obviously today we have thrown a ton of information at you guys. We have given you a framework and I want to kind of summarize this and I guess emphasize what's most important here. If you are looking at this, you're feeling overwhelmed, my best tip to you is start with that base rate. Start with figuring out what your deliverables are actually worth. And once again, base rate is not like where you start and where you end every conversation. It gives you an idea, though, of what you should be pitching to brands, what you can add on top of that to potentially increase that rate, and how low you're really willing to go to do the work that you're doing.
Yep. So you start with that base rate and then you look at these levers and you're like, okay, what can I pull? What does my reach look like for the last 30 to 60 days? How relevant is this brand to my audience? How aligned are they? What rights am I considering or does the brand want to have for the specific piece of content? And then collectively, like, what ROI have I been able to drive for brands in the past and similar partnerships, that I can assume that I will be able to drive for this brand based off of everything that overlaps. So you kind of have that starting place, and then you have these 4 levers to play with to adjust your rate up and down depending on the specific brand.
And I think at the end of the day, one of the biggest like metrics that's not actually a metric that I use to measure if I'm priced right is like if the brand is like, yes, we're sending the contract, let's do it. How does that feel in your gut? Like, are you like, holy shit, I actually pulled that in? Like, that feels amazing. I can't wait to do that work at that rate. Or does it feel like, oh,
Yeah,
man, like
I
that's a
should have went higher.
lot. That's a lot of work I just signed up to do and a lot of exposure that I'm giving, and I'm not getting paid what I'm worth. That intuitive like feeling, that gut feeling of like,
Mhm.
this is an absolute full body yes, or this is like, oh my God, I'm gonna avoid doing this for the next 3 weeks until it's due. That should tell you everything you need to know. So don't pitch if it feels like that. Period.
Yeah, that is like that is so true. And it's like, so I often don't feel that until after they come back with a response too. So it's really hard to discern that as you're sending it off because you have all of these, like, just noodle brain things happening under the surface,
Yeah.
like insecurities in the value of in your content, like being afraid of losing the deal. So it's like you need to really be conscious of those things happening inside of you so that you don't wait until you get the response back to feel that.
1000%. Like just stop before you send the email, stop and ask yourself, like, if they say yes to this, how does that feel?
Yeah,
Give yourself a
totally.
second to think about that. And if it doesn't feel good, you should probably revise the email before you send it.
Yeah. And it's also funny because I've sent pitches out there where brands respond almost immediately and they're like, "Yep, sign the deal, let's go." And I'm like,
You're like, "I did not even come close to the top
Yeah,
of your budget."
not even. They're celebrating over there,
Right.
so
Yeah, I think that and once again, this is hard. It's not one size fits all. It's not easy to price yourself, but the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it. That all comes from experience.
Totally, totally, and learning how brands respond and, the data that they give you in the response, it comes with experience and it comes with some bad partnerships, honestly.
Yeah, and we've all been there,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
So we're not going to dive into these additional layers, but I just want to acknowledge them because pricing is so nuanced. It's important to take these into consideration. But there are other layers that you need to take into consideration when pricing yourself with a brand partnership, such as is this going to be part of a package? Kate kind of touched on this earlier. Like, yes, sometimes maybe our base rate for a single video might be decently lower than what we would charge for a single video because we are investing in that long-term partnership, multiple videos, and more of an investment of them into your personal brand. And so packages can be, I mean, we'll do an entire episode on packages,
Yeah.
honestly.
'Cause I think that's one
Um,
of the biggest things that we have learned and seen once again, it works well for the brands, it also works really well for you as a creator to know what partnerships you have lined up, on and on
exactly.
and on. Yeah,
And then there's also additional work that you could be doing, like concept pitching. If the brand is putting literally all the onus on you to research what is happening in their market right now, like um, you know, research current trends, whatever it be, and coming up with different concepts for them to choose, like that is an add-on. That's additional work. You're bringing strategy to the equation here. It's something you can charge for. I've had, brands ask for analytics and reporting on the tail end of my video campaigns. That is additional work. It's something that you could charge for. Kate mentioned multi platform posting. That's a huge one. Access to new audience. That's something we should be charging for. And then lastly, video orientations.
yeah,
Definitely, I mean, creating a video in multiple orientations takes double the filming, takes double the editing, that is more work that, drum roll, we should be charging for.
right. And this is like I mean, we could go the list goes on and on. Like,
Yeah.
other ones that I can think of are, if the brand asks you for, like, all of the raw footage,
Mhm.
you have to pay for that.
Yeah.
If a brand asks you for multiple hook variations, that's
Mhm.
an add-on. Like, these are not things that come standard in a brand deal. So remember that once again, like we've said, start with your base rate. That's your bare minimum. That's the starting place. And then any of these extra things that they're asking for on top of that, you got to charge for them.
Yeah. And, it's funny because when I first started charging for add-ons, I would, break them out into my email, like,
Yeah.
extra X for this, and, I've moved away from that strategy and more so creating an entire package
Yeah.
with X, Y, and Z in my head, knowing that I'm charging additional for these pieces,
Right.
but just pitching a total cost to all of these add-ons instead of breaking them down because yeah, I've seen a lot more success with that strategy.
And I think that comes down to how you communicate with a brand. And I'm with you, T. Like, I think that when you communicate like a business owner, brands are typically more receptive to that.
Yeah.
I typically, if I have an inbound for something, I'll ask them first, like, do you have a creative vision for what the video is going to look like? What length is the video? What platforms? And is there ad rights? Like,
Yeah.
those are typically, that's the information I need to even give them a quote. And then based on that, I'm able to put together a quote, send it back to them, and you can take the negotiations from there. I would definitely recommend, and once again, negotiation is a skill. Some people love it. Me, I love negotiating. I think it's like a game.
He doesn't.
He doesn't, right? And so you have to practice and figure out like what works, but I would say avoid like apologetic phrases
Yeah.
or like, does that work for you? Like, does that sound okay? Is that,
Let me know if you
within your
think.
no, we're not doing that. Like, you leave room for silence and you leave room for like, this is my rate. Would love to
Mhm.
work together. Send. Like
Yeah,
there has to be some of that confidence that you're putting in the pitch.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And confidence comes from practice, and
Right.
confidence comes from data informing what you're putting out there. So if you're not feeling that confidence, it's from one of those two levers having a gap. And so that's what you need to work on.
Yeah, and remember that not every partnership is gonna be a yes. Like, there are brands who I have not been able to align with compensation on, like brands that I would love to work with, but it's
Yeah.
just not taking a video with that brand would take a spot on my content calendar that another brand could pay for. I'm always still vetting out brands and making sure that the content that I take on and the partnerships that I take on are aligned. But if you say yes to partnerships that aren't actually what your rate is, you're taking space away from brands who do have the budget and want to pay you what you're worth.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's just like this is one thing I wanted to work in earlier in the episode. Just about how much, I don't want to say damage, but like how it hurts the entire industry as a whole when we all accept rates that are well below the value that we bring to brands. Because not only does that create an anchor for our own ability to earn more, but it creates a wall for people in our industry that are also working with these same brands. Because, if you accept a low rate, it's very challenging for an adjacent creator to, even with data, pitch why they're worth more than that.
Yeah, absolutely. We are all in this together.
We
Like,
are.
as
It's
creators,
teamwork.
we are all in this together. And so we need to be able to stand up confidently for what we're worth.
Well, on that note, we just want to drop this here. Soon in the very near future, Kate and I are launching the Not an Influencer Creator Club, and pricing is going to be such a huge piece of this. Um, Literally working through hands on with other creators in the club, with us, how to position yourself, how to price yourself, how to negotiate, how to work through these levers and make sure that your starting point is something that you can really get behind. So this is really a soft pitch for that coming soon. We have a wait list below. But if this is something that you really want to develop in, like, in your business as an educator, this creator club is where you're going to want to be.
We're so excited. Like,
We are
I'm
excited.
so excited because this is something I wish I had 2 years ago. Like, this is
Same.
something I wish that I could ask more experienced content creators, like, "Hey, just got this inbound. What do I do?" Or,
Yeah.
"Just got this response. Anyone have any feedback on how to push back here?" That did not exist for us, and so we
Mhm.
made it for you guys, and
Yes.
I'm just so excited to, I guess, get to help out in this capacity,
Yep, it's gonna be gold. All right, so we're gonna leave you guys with a challenge, of
as
course, because
always.
that's how we do. So after you guys are done listening to this podcast episode, we want you to go back and pick one brand deal that you've done in the past or a brand deal that you're like trying to land right now and run it through the 4R framework. Look at each of those levers. All right. What is my reach right now? What data do I have to back it up? How relevant is this pitch or is this brand to my audience? Do I see, like, if I could put it on a percentage, what is the overlap between their ideal audience and my community? What rights are they asking for, or what rights am I pitching for them as an educated business owner, that knows what's best for this piece of content? And what ROI have I seen in the past that I can provide to them as, more data behind what I'm pitching? So that's our challenge to you.
We love a challenge. No, we seriously do because it doesn't mean anything if we leave you guys with these episodes and we're like,
Yeah.
all right, here's all the information. And then you forget about it. Like, actually, we want you to go out and try it out and see how it feels. And you might realize that you're undercharging. You might realize that the reason you're not landing deals is because maybe you don't have your rates right. And
Mhm.
hopefully, this exercise helps you figure that out.
Totally. All right. So that was like our longest episode. Well, look at that. Like,
Look at
we
us.
honestly could have just talked and talked and talked. I could, like, Kate and I would like side eye each other. We should probably head to the next section, even though we just want to keep going.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to get us to stop yapping, but
Yeah.
good thing
But
we don't have any plans of slowing down this podcast soon.
that's
So,
true. Lots to cover.
yeah.
But just to recap, you don't need a huge audience to charge more. You just need data. You need
Yep.
the right levers to pull. All right. So if you don't mind, go hit us up on Not an Influencer on Instagram. Let us know how your exercise went. If you end up landing a deal by leveraging the 4R framework, like, we want to know. We want to celebrate you.
Yeah.
Tell us about your pricing breakthrough. Like, we're so excited to engage with you on this process. Like, rates are just like what Kate and I just get so excited talking about.
Yeah.
Next week, we are going to be diving into what what a specific partnership looks like, what actually goes into a high value brand deal. We're going to breaking down everything for you. So like this episode? Is that like this episode? Thumbs up it, rate
Subscribe?
it, subscribe.
I don't know. We're still new to the long form stuff, but
Yeah.
whatever you do,
Just yeah, stick around.
give us a rating. Is that a thing?
I think so. I don't know.
Subscribe.
We'll be sure to get this the next time because I don't even know what a good call to action is right now, but
I don't either, but we're learning as we go, just like we have everything else. So once
Yeah.
again, guys, thanks for being along for the journey, and we will see you next week.